This is a conversation between two fathers, just trying to do their thing in this world. We talked about marketing, business, how to combine and balance the family and work life, how entrepreneurship can give you freedom if done right, and how a strong family unit is crucial. The guest is Philipp Schoeffmann. And we also talked about why leaving your dog's shit on your neighbor's lawn fucks with your life on a deeper level, and also what a wealthy life actually means. Why we only have the now, and why going for ice cream with your kids is sometimes more fruitful than having meetings. The importance of living an authentic life and making money the right way is also something we dove into. What good marketing in 2024 looks like, how one can make social media work for them, and what the ways are to make money on social media, alongside some tactical info, is what we talked about as well. To clarify, the statistic that I mentioned in the middle of the podcast, it is roughly 70% of those already incarcerated that had fatherless homes. Yeah, just because we want to, keep things straight in here. So I hope you like it. And if it gave you value, please like and subscribe. All the good stuff. Thank you for that. I will see you in the next one.
Sorry for that.
It's all good. Yeah, so hello, Philipp. Welcome to the show.
Hello, good to be here.
Yeah, perfect. So I saw you briefly, maybe, I think it was 5 years ago, to 2019, at, one of the first Geek Out events in Barcelona. And since then, I've been following you, and I saw you were doing a podcast. And so I thought, yeah, let's talk, could be a good conversation, maybe, a little bit different than the other last few podcasts I uploaded. And this time will be about, marketing mostly, and maybe some fatherhood and stuff like that. So yeah, thank you first of all for taking the time. And
pleasure.
yeah, let's start basically a bit earlier, I would say, because that's always interesting to me. Like, how did you get into that whole space, and why do you love marketing so much, and what is marketing to you?
Marketing to me is really getting out your message. Marketing really is about making people understand who you really are. And I think this is where a lot of people fundamentally get it wrong, because they craft messages in a belief that it will help them sell more shit, which might just happen. I've done that a lot too, but I think I've changed my perspective on that a lot over the last 20 years. So I started just after the .com bubble bust, like 2000, 2001. And we did like emails, we did banners, we did stuff to sell things, and it worked, right? But over the years, I think I really changed my opinion on that. I think marketing really means that you do something great and you share it with the world. And if you look at it this way, marketing is one of the greatest things that we have. It's just a tool that is used incorrectly in many ways.
Mm-hmm.
So this is why I'm fascinated by it. I'm actually driven by impact. I want to leave a legacy and live in a way that I share a better world with my kids, a better world than what I found, which was already pretty good, I guess. And marketing is just my tool that I use.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think a lot changes, right, when we have kids, especially how we think about stuff. What are we doing here actually? Why are we doing it? I mean, at least with me, it changed a lot. Like, also in terms of risk, but we can also get back to that. But you also speak on stage, right? Like you're doing the main stage at Affiliate World. Like, how did you get into that, and why do you like doing that so much? Because you've been doing it for a while now, right? Like, it's a couple of years, I think, right?
Yeah, I think 8 years or so. And
Yeah.
it's like speaking on stage is a lot of fun. Why I do it? Honestly, I think speaking on stage is something that really changed my life, and maybe in different ways than I thought. So obviously, if you speak on stage, it gives you visibility. You can share your stuff. You can influence people. You can make them buy your shit. For me, the reason is something completely different. I don't think I've sold a lot of stuff speaking on stages, but what I was really finding myself in a way. So let me try to explain that. When you speak on stage, like a big stage, not a small stage, but like a big stage with like the lights on you and everything, you're basically by yourself, and you're basically just speaking to and with yourself, because everything is dark. You don't really see a lot, right? So you're just there, more like speaking in front of camera, or having like a moment with yourself, which is really weird. Like if you've never done that, it seems weird to visualize that, but it is. Um, but that is combined with stage frightenness, is what they call it, right? Or whatever it is like this anxious
Stage
feeling
fright.
of getting on stage. Yeah, it's like supposedly is one of the biggest fears of people, right?
Yeah.
Getting like on a big stage, or actually whatever stage, right? And I definitely have that too. But the funny thing is that if you walk on stage a lot, of course it becomes more normal, right? And so the reason why I love being a host on like a big stage is I don't just get the opportunity to walk on stage once or twice, but I go on and off stage like all day, day after day. And so it really becomes like, I don't know, like brushing your teeth and or walking to the toilet. Sometimes it's nice, sometimes it's inconvenient, but you just walk on stage. It's just what it is, right? And so after a while, like I really feel this sense of flow when I walk on a stage. It becomes super normal, but also like it's really like taking everything from you. And I love that feeling. I think you can get kind of addicted to that. And I definitely have. So that's why I come back to stage. But then of course it's a great opportunity. If you speak on a stage, it's a great opportunity to get to know other speakers. So I hang out a lot in the green room, and a lot of my very best friends come from speaking gigs where I just hang out with other people backstage, and you connect, and then you just move forward and become friends. And obviously those people usually have a lot of experience, and some of them are really awesome guys and girls. So yeah, that's why I do it.
Nice. So in the beginning, were you? I mean, you said you were frightened, but is that the reason why you did it? Because you said, okay, let's jump in there and work through that.
I think honestly in the beginning it was definitely both. It was me trying to challenge myself, but also I was trying to find a way to get in front of more people and gain visibility. Quite frankly, that too, right? Um, by now, it's less about the visibility and it's more about the flow feeling. Because I still like when I go out the first time, I still feel anxious and I have like my routines and like stupid things that I do, right? But still, I'm kind of nervous. I just love that feeling of doing it over and over again. And this is why like a lot of people actually come to me and like after they've seen me on stage, they're like, wow, you're so energetic. And how do you do it like the whole day and like 3 days in a row? And honestly, I don't know. It's more like an addiction. You just like you want to get back into that feeling. And I know a lot of marketers have that when they run campaigns, or I guess other people have that when they do like their favorite sports. And I guess it's a very similar feeling. It just gives you this flow moment and this I don't know. I'm not a
Dopamine
chemist,
rush.
but yeah, probably it's a dopamine rush.
Yeah, it probably is. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, interesting stuff. I mean, for me, with speaking in public is the same thing, right? Like I just never wanted to do it, and so I thought, okay, let's start a podcast, right? Let's
It's
jump in
perfect.
there.
Yeah, I
It's
mean,
the only way to learn.
I guess we're gonna get into like getting yourself out there, and the podcast is a great format for doing that.
Yeah, for sure, definitely. So because you talk about like because I listened to another podcast where you spoke and you say you're not really an extrovert, you're also an introvert. Like you like to work on like crunching numbers at home, and then but you also on the stage. Like, did that help you? Like you would say like jumping like back and forth between those two, like with the work you do. Does that make you understand people better?
I think most people have an extroverted and an introverted side, but most people are very bad in managing their energy and understanding what time to do what. And for me, it's a perfect fit, like just because it fits my personality to have most of my time just being in front of my computer and doing my thing and building stuff, right? I think that's something most entrepreneurs have in common. They just like to have time to build stuff. And more often than not, I believe, especially in the digital space, that is done by yourself. You just sit there and put things together, right? And I think that is very important to have that focus time. And I spend most of my time like that. But yeah, of course, other people can recharge you. It's just about which people you surround yourself with. And ideally, that's in person. I live in Vienna, Austria. It's a great place to live. There's also great people here, but it's not the most entrepreneurial space, especially when it comes to the digital sphere. So that's why I love to go to conferences and just have a couple of days where I'm with people like 24/7. But I can do that for like 3-4 days, and then I need a break. And again, I think that's for most people. I don't know a lot
Yeah,
of
for
people who
sure.
can stand a life like this, like every
Yeah.
week.
Why do you think that is, that we, kind of a little bit slower in a sense in the digital space, compared to, let's say, the States?
You think in general, why
Yeah,
we
just in
develop?
general, yeah, because it doesn't matter if you're in Vienna or, maybe there's Berlin, like that stands out a bit, but
Yeah.
like these German-speaking countries, in a sense, right? Like it's just my feeling, right? Like we're slower to adapt sometimes. Sure, there's always these couple percent that, right, that are fast movers and stuff, but like just
Yeah.
at a larger scale, right? Like it always seems we're, a bit behind. Like we want to make less mistakes, right? Like we
Yeah.
want to take it slow. We want to, like keep the risk low, right?
Yeah, I lived in Berlin for like almost 3 years, and you have a different vibe there at times, and the same is true for London or some pockets in Europe. I think it's the same for the US in general. Like in most places, people don't live the high risk, high speed entrepreneurial life that is glorified so much. But then again, obviously, I mean, in Europe we have a different history and we have a different culture and like risk, like we're more risk averse. That's just part of it. I don't think that's necessarily bad, and I don't think that everybody should be aiming at building $1 billion business. I actually think that for most people, building a small business, not even like a mid-sized business, like a small business, is what they should aim for. I think I think being a freelancer is not a good option in general. I think a solopreneur journey is hard for most people. It's just lonely. It can be a good business model, but it's not a great way of spending your time for most people. Uh, but aiming to build the next unicorn, like $1 billion business, for most people is a terrible idea. And I've been on that journey. I've built a startup, like raised millions, had a fantastic ride there, but it was the most miserable time in my life, frankly. Right? It was I felt terrible, and also the business
Mm,
failed. Right? Obviously, like if in the end we had built like $1 billion business, maybe in retrospect I would look at it differently. That could be. But it was still a terrible time, see, money or not. And so I think the way that a lot of things are done here in Europe, also business wise, is not a bad thing. I don't think we have to be so fast. I don't think we have to aim for like the biggest exits in the world. Like, who wouldn't be happy to make like a $10 million exit? Most people would be set for life. And
sure.
you don't have to be the fastest to do that. You just have to get a couple things right and be consistent about it. That's it.
Yeah, it's. I agree. I think it's just like media is mostly, worldwide. It's in English, and the Americans, they're like natives, and they're more, right. There's more than, yeah, I don't know, like 300 million, and so I think we just see more of that, right? So we think that there's more people doing that kind of stuff, but there probably is, but just because of the ratio, right? But about that business you just talked about, if you want to elaborate a bit more, like what were you doing there and why do you think it failed?
The reason why we failed was really because we didn't have product market fit. And I think there's a lot of talk about product market fit, but a lot of people get it wrong, especially when they're not like part of the startup culture and everything that is being preached there. So that was over 10 years ago. We lived in Berlin, interesting environment back then to build a company. And because of the background of my business partner, we decided to build a venture backed startup. So we raised several rounds, and he was really good at that. He brought in a decent amount of money. We built a team quite quickly. I think we had over 30 people at the end. But like technically, we failed because a funding round didn't go through fast enough. And so we were running out of cash, quite stereotypical case for a leveraged startup. The question really is, what was the reason behind that reason? Why didn't we get the money fast enough? And I think there were a couple things in place. The most obvious was that we didn't generate enough revenue. Now, for a VC backed startup, revenue is not always the most important factor, right? And our user numbers grew. But I think there was just a big mismatch. We didn't understand the market well enough. Our case was not clear enough. And so we just got ourselves into the spiral where it became more important to satisfy investors than to do what the customers love. And that went well for a while. And then things just, went sideways. So it was definitely one of the phases in my life where I learned more, like the most in general, right? I learned so much during that
Hmm.
time. But in the end, I'm actually quite happy that we didn't move forward there. Obviously, at that time, it felt very differently, and I would have done almost anything in the world to keep it going. But it was not supposed to be. I think that was the business side of things. Also, personally, I think probably I was not experienced enough to understand that back then, right? But I was not where I belonged. So I was one of the founders, right? And I was also in charge of marketing. And I think it sounds weird saying that, but I think we should have looked more towards marketing, looked more towards what matters on that side than actually looking at how to make more money, in this case, from investors. It was just a different viewpoint, and I wasn't strong enough or experienced enough back then to get the business in that direction. Maybe that would have helped, maybe not.
Well, those are those phases in life, right, where we learn. So, I mean, just like you said, right, these venture backed, you know, startups, like I mean, so many even after 5 or 10 years, then the revenues are ridiculous, right? Like it's and profitability is not even spoken of, right? So
It's true.
it's all about raising those rounds, and getting that data and stuff. But so I assume, did you like you had to kind of work yourself out of that failure after that? Was that difficult? And maybe if you want to go into that a bit.
Yeah. I mean, it was definitely one of the hardest times in my life. Took me about 2 years. I guess I had a severe depression, but I didn't want to label myself that way. So I was just trying to keep going and did some consulting gigs and tried to survive, pay the bills, stuff like this. But was not a great time, honestly. And I didn't even see it as like a great learning.
Hmm.
I also kind of lost a good friend, like my co-founder. Friendship was not strong enough to survive this. We're okay, but we don't really speak anymore. Um, so that did teach me a lot about how I want to build companies, but also who I like to hang out with. So I did do a lot of changes in how I operate and the kind of businesses that I wanna run. So of course, like every great failure is a wonderful learning opportunity. Definitely was for me, but it took longer than I than I wanted, for sure. Right? Was quite a big mess.
Yeah, for sure. So I assume you were around 30 at the time, somewhere there, or
Let
a
me
bit
see. We
older,
built this like 2012, 2013. That was like the
10 years ago.
yeah.
So early 30s. I don't know how
Yeah,
old you
I'm
are.
41 now. So yeah. Yeah, I was around 30. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's an interesting phase. I was there a couple years ago, and that phase for me was a turning point. My 20s were like all over the place. Just very in the external. Always looking for the next adrenaline push and whatnot. But yeah, so I think that's kind of the switch often, right? Like in our time as a man, right? That where we kind of think about and reevaluate like what our trajectory is in life and what we actually want. And sometimes you get a lesson like that. With me, it was a lot of pain, right? Like I had a lot of like nerve pain and stuff like that. So I had to reevaluate what I was doing, right? Like in a forced way. But you
What
just
did you what
mentioned,
did you what did you suffer from?
Well, I had a injury on the fifth or sixth vertebrae, and it
Right.
just kind of it's an old injury that I didn't know about. Probably
Mm,
from I don't know, snowboarding, or
right.
I had a couple accidents as well with the car and with the race bike, but it was all good, you know. And then I had some, yeah, and I had some, emotional trauma, also like business and friendship wise, and girlfriend, that all came together, and like the
Mm,
emotional trauma then caused, the whole thing to kind of come up, right? At the time, I didn't understand anything. I didn't know what the fuck was going on. Nothing worked. Right. I was
right.
like, holy shit, like you're in so much pain. I couldn't sleep. Literally, I was
Yeah.
taking anything, everything, and way too much, and nothing worked. So yeah, so I had to really, go a few steps back and reevaluate everything, because that's just, the only way I was gonna get out of it.
And did it work
But
for you?
yeah, yeah, totally, totally.
that's
Yeah, I
that's
mean, a
that
lot of
matters.
therapy, a lot of
Yeah.
therapy, and a lot of work on myself, and
Yeah.
yeah, now I'm here. I'm doing everything, and I mean, I cannot like, do like 100% full contact sports anymore. I have to watch out, with the
Right.
hits against the head and stuff. But yeah, I'm in a very good place, especially mentally and physically for sure. But
That's cool.
yeah, I mean, if I would have listened to the first professor that looked at it, I would have been under the knife, right? And like had
Right.
I had plates in there now, and like probably still take painkillers, right? But like I
Yeah.
said, no,
Yeah.
and then I just kind of fought my way through that, like for 4 days a week, 5 days a week in therapy, painful sessions every week for 1 year straight, 1.5 years straight, I would say. And so,
That
yeah, but
sucks.
that's,
I'm like,
everybody can do it.
I can relate actually. Sorry for interrupting
Yeah,
you,
no, no
but I
problem.
can relate with that. I suffered from herniated discs for like 8 years.
Mm,
Are you drinking mate?
yeah,
That's cool.
yeah,
Cool.
yeah.
Um, so yeah, it took me like 8 years to get rid of the pain, and had phases where I like couldn't walk. I like was crawling on the floor and shit. I was like, "What the fuck? I'm in my 20s. What's going on?" Right?
Mm,
But yeah, a lot of that does come back to like how you live your life, like your priorities, how much pressure you really feel and have. And I think this is one of the biggest issues for entrepreneurs nowadays. It probably has been forever, right? One of the biggest issues for entrepreneurs is really how they deal with pressure, right? Do they have a way to relieving themselves of that pressure, or do they eat it up day in and out? And if they just swallow it, at one point, most people just break. I definitely did in my 20s, right? So, like you did, you have to find a different way to deal with the pressures of life so you can try to get where you want to be without killing yourself, right?
exactly. Yeah, yeah. For me, it was learning about how I work, how I operate, how my body, works, how much rest I need. Right, just like what
Yeah.
you said. It's with me was all about fascia. Right, once I understood, how fascia works, that changed everything. Right, but people don't really know about that kind of stuff. Right, like if you dehydrate it, your fascia doesn't work the same way, right? And then
Yeah.
the weakest point in your body is going to show up, right? And that with me
Yeah.
was that old injury. So that was kind of where everything came together. And then obviously, excessive like alcohol, drugs, all that stuff doesn't work, right? Like it doesn't help either.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
so you have to really cut out all that crap so you can live your life, right? But that's a good thing about that realm that we live in, and that universe. We're gonna get taught these lessons, and if we don't listen, it's gonna just go get worse, right? Eventually. So yeah,
Very true.
totally.
Very true.
uh, Before, you mentioned that now you choose your partners a bit differently. Like how does that look like? And would you work with a friend again in a business venture?
I would work with a friend, and I have worked with friends afterwards. But quite frankly, I think it's very hard to find a partner who you can go with. So, I mean, statistically, obviously, like if you found a company with a partner, chances of success are higher. And I believe that's true because you have a sparring partner, an accountability partner. I think it's great. If you have the right person, that's awesome. I do think that if you do not have the right person right away, then doing it solo instead of trying to force yourself to find somebody to do it with is the better thing. Maybe the same as with any relationship in life, right? If you're not blessed with having the right partner, it's good to shop around and like look and be open, but you can't force it.
No.
right? So most of the stuff I'm doing nowadays, I do solo when it comes to being the primary founder. I do, of course, partner with people wherever it makes sense. And that is very important because nobody can do it alone, right? What I'm very careful about right now is like the clients that we actually take. So,
Mm.
like, like in my 20s, I jumped at every opportunity left and right and tried everything. And nowadays, like in my 40s, I guess maybe it also comes with age or experience, or I don't know, all the failures that you collect, right? But I'm very, very particular in who I work with. So one thing that I learned from an investor back in the days when we built that startup, actually, very cool guy, very cool investor, right? Um, he said, "See, I don't really have a lot of requirements. Like if I give you my money, I expect the money to be lost. The moment I wire it, it's lost for me. Secondly, um, I have a principle that is I don't work with assholes, right? You're not an asshole. You can have my money. It's cool. Don't be an asshole, right? And I think this was just super cool. Obviously, he was the kind of person who was already very successful and was able to afford these bets, right? So I'm not saying just give your money to random people as long as they appear cool. What I am saying is that no matter who you work with, I think it pays off to be very selective and only work with people whom you align with value wise, right? So I say cool. What I actually mean is that the operating principles of people are a fit with how I function, right? So that could be they are the same on some values. It could be that they are very complementary in other aspects. But either way, there's a fit. And if shit hits the fan, at least you have a common ground and can communicate about what has to be done. So I think this is one of the most important things. And I mean, that is true for business partners. That is true for friends. It's also true for clients and customers, right? Especially if you run something like more higher ticket, right, where you have less clients but a closer relationship with them. I think is crucial to to be careful about who you work with and who you spend time with.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, because it can infect everything else that you do, right? Like it takes away your attention and
Yes,
what your investor said, right? I mean, they probably bet on, 1 out of 20 businesses to basically be successful, right?
yeah,
Like that's kind of what they're aiming at. So I mean, it totally makes sense, right? That they expect it to be lost. And then, I mean, my thing is, with people nowadays, like if I can leave them with my child for half an hour, that's kind of my rule.
oh, that's
So
interesting.
that's my new rule that I have
You have
because I
one
made
kid, or hold on, how many do you have? Can you
I have
spare one?
two. I have two.
Okay, well,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, yeah. But that's my new rule. Yeah, and I
That's pretty
think,
cool.
yeah, I think in so many ways, right? Like it takes away so much of what you just said. Like align on the values, like in a business sense and stuff. But I'm like, okay, look, if we don't have the same agreement about children and how you behave around children, how's everything else going to work out when shit hits the fan, right? Because I
That's
think
true.
when you, right, like, so that to me is like kind of the new way of letting people into my life.
That's very interesting. I'm just going through like mentally, I'm going through the list of people I spend most time and energy with, right? And I'm not sure if I would leave my kids with most of them. I need to
And
rethink
half an
this.
hour. It doesn't have to be like long, but like, can they really get their shit together, for
Yeah,
half an hour?
yeah,
And do you trust them
yeah.
enough, right, that they behave and like accordingly, right? And I think for half an hour, even like my craziest, people that I don't know, but I mean, they could still, be nice and like have play around and stuff. So
Yeah, maybe. Okay.
maybe
Yeah, I'll
maybe
think
not.
about this.
Yeah, yeah. Are you thinking about your couple of friends that you hang out with, like at the Philipp? Because I probably know who you're thinking about these days.
Yeah, I mean, I have a couple crazy friends, right, who I love dearly, and I love spending time with them.
Yeah.
Interestingly, most of these guys are fathers now, or a parent now as well, right? So somehow they manage to raise their kids, or maybe their spouses do, but
Yeah.
it works.
They have a good partner, right? That knows how to take care of it.
Yeah, 100%, 100%.
Yeah. Like, are you still doing that yacht thing? Was that an investment, or were you like
No, so
operatively
well,
involved?
investment, not a monetary investment,
Okay.
but
Right.
a very good friend of mine and mentor, I guess, is very successfully building a yacht company. And when I say yacht, it's like 60-meter ships, right? So
But is
it's
that the
like,
one in Croatia?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. I know. Yeah. Then I know what you're talking about.
Okay,
Yeah. Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, um, so the idea was that on top of the actual yacht business, we also build a brokerage, basically, right?
Mm.
So since we come from marketing, so the founder of the company, he comes from actual shipbuilding, right? But then my friend, he is coming from the marketing side of things, and myself as well.
Yeah.
So we thought, let's build a brokerage and basically own the lead flow. And this way, of course, we can also sell charters for the yachts, but also leverage that and help other um, Croatian ship owners and beyond, and potentially taking it global. I still think it's a great business model, but then again, it's a very, very particular market, and so it would take quite a lot of time and energy to understand how to make that work. So we
Sure.
honestly haven't gotten to it yet, and I
Sure.
think that's probably another important point and something that I had to learn the hard way, which is focus, right? And
Mm.
obviously, I'm not the first person talking about that, but focus and clarity
Yeah.
is so fucking important.
Yeah. Not do too many things at the same time.
Exactly.
Yeah. It was a big one with me. Like, because I apparently have ADD, ADHD, and like I told myself at
Every
some
entrepreneur
point.
has. Come on,
Yeah.
it's just back in the '90s, nobody knew what that
Yeah,
is.
exactly. So but the thing was, I told myself I need a lot of different projects to work well, right? Like that's the story I told myself. And like the older I get, the more I meditate and like actually, get like more calm, the more I understand that it's kind of right. That was the wrong story I was telling myself, right? But yeah,
No, it's very
nonetheless,
interesting
it's
what you're
possible.
saying. The story, the wrong story that I told myself. I think this is very, very important. I just started a course on manifesting, right? Because I have never looked at manifesting techniques with intent, I guess. And I think that's super important. And that is all, as far as I understand, about the stories that you tell yourself. What do you consider truth, right? And what
Yeah,
path you're on. And most people have no ideas what stories they actually tell themselves, right? And if they had, they would hopefully tell themselves different stories, right? So
yeah,
that goes way beyond just having clarity and focus. It's about everything that you touch and the priorities that you set for yourself in your life, right?
totally. Yeah, to me, that's about alignment, right? Because the stuff that you think about and like the affirmations and the manifestation and everything you do, but is it aligned with how you operate? Is it aligned with your thoughts?
Sure.
Is it aligned how you live your life, right? Is it aligned how you show up with your family? Is it aligned how you show up with your employees, right? Is it aligned with how you show up in the world, like in general? Like do you leave your dog shit on the neighbor's lawn, right? So
Yeah.
it's yeah, it's that stuff that I like think about a lot these days, since maybe 3 or 4 years quite intensely. And so I think that's the interesting part, because there's a lot of things like that are taught in courses, and they but alignment is, I think, is the basis of it, right? Like, it doesn't match, right, everything else you're doing and how you think and operate.
That's true. One of the it's funny actually, because um there's this saying, I don't know where I have it from. It's probably some famous quote, but it's how you do one thing
Yeah,
is how you do everything. And I think
100%.
this is so fucking strong. And I see myself doing stuff every once in a while, like at home, right, with my kids. And I'm like, oh shit, is that how I do everything? Okay. And that really makes you think. And sometimes, I guess you have to tap yourself on the shoulder and you can be a little bit proud of yourself. But at other times, yeah, it's questionable. And you might want to rethink that, because if you realize your behavior and your value set and how you function, I guess, in one moment, then probably you do it in a lot of other cases as well.
Well, that's exactly what I meant with alignment. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
like because if you want to reach a different level and you start manifesting, but you're leaving all these little stones unturned, and you leave the shit on the lawn, right? Because
Yeah.
that is the truth, because I know people that when it comes to business, they're very like streamlined and everything is like
Yeah.
accurate, and as long as the client is happy, I'm making money, it's all good. But like in the private life, it's a complete like different story, right? I mean, for
Yeah.
me, I thought when I was younger, I could separate the two, right? That
Mm.
whatever I was doing at home
It's all the same.
and with my friends, right, like I could separate, and that brought me a lot of problems. But I for some reason, there's people that kind of they probably they do 90% of their time is with work, right? So it's it's the way it is. But yeah, still these little things that I see here and there, and I'm like, okay, like even with the family, right? Like they have kids but they never see them and stuff, and that,
Exactly.
yeah. As I mean, we can go into that a bit, because for me,
Yeah.
like my father was always working, right? Like he was
Right.
present, but he was always working, and so my mother always took over, and that like later understood that that was actually a problem for me, right? In a few ways, because I needed probably more guidance from a male role model. And so like how did fatherhood change the way you operate, like in general?
I think fatherhood changed a lot for me, as it should for every man. It's mostly a challenge of priorities, I believe. And that is especially true for entrepreneurs. So I teach a concept that I call freedom entrepreneurship. And what it means to me is really that you take the freedom that you can get with entrepreneurship and use it for stuff that actually matters more. Because building a business really, again, it's just a tool, right? It's a leverage, right? It's a lever you can pull to get yourself in like your life to a different level. But what do you want to use that for? You can use it for your own growth, right? Spiritual growth or whatever it should be. But usually most people should use it for family, right? And making the lives of their family members better. So for me, it's really about how I work, how much I work, and what energy I work in, right? And quite frankly, like we got three boys, right? So life is very full, right? And things just happen. And just yesterday, actually, it was a case where mm, a very close and important family member was hospitalized, right? And I had some stuff to do yesterday, but my wife had to work as well, and so we have a baby, right? So I was taking care of the baby first, and then when it was supposed, like when it was time for me to get to my stuff, right? My wife had to go to the hospital, right? So I was kind of stressed, but I had to get the kids from school, and then I was supposed to meet my wife, but my wife had to stay in the hospital for longer. So in the end, like I spent all of my day just like juggling the kids, and then at like 5 o'clock in the evening or afternoon, right? There was another parent walking by. So we live like in the center of Vienna, and like we just know people like who walk on the street. And one of them was like, "Hey, we're going for ice cream. You joining?" And I was like, and the kids were like, "Oh yeah, ice cream!" And I was like, "Fuck, my day is doomed," right? And so, of course, we went for ice cream, and we spent another 2 hours there, like at the ice cream parlor and at the park next by. And then randomly, other friends joined, and I was like, let's decide, like, am I being stressed because obviously I have stuff to do, right? Or do I manage to be in the moment and just
Mhm.
enjoy this gift that I've been given, right? Spending time here with my kids and my friends and just enjoy. And so I did. And then, of course, I wanted to spend time with my wife because she had a tough day. And then at like 11 in the evening, I sat down and did my work, right? And obviously, I didn't have like a full productive day, but I did what was necessary, right? What I promised to my partners and my clients. And then I went to bed, and now today is like full on, and I just have to catch up, or I want to catch up. So why am I telling this story? Because I think as an entrepreneur, you have a lot more choices that you can make. You have a lot more freedom, right? And obviously, you want to get stuff done. You want to get something accomplished, um, but you can choose what. If you do it right, you can choose what you do at any time of the day, right? As long as the bills are paid, right, and you're following through on what you promise to people, you can do whatever the fuck you want, right? And so
100%.
yesterday I spent my time with the kids and like attending other stuff. And today I spend time with you, and then I'm back to hustle mode, right? I don't think a lot of people realize that, and they just continue to live their life. And I think it's a waste. If you're an entrepreneur, don't be an entrepreneur because you're looking for money. Look for having a wealthy life. And a wealthy life is a little bit about money, but a lot about the choices and the freedom and how you spend your time and energy.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, that's kind of, where I want to be at as well. Like where I am at, I would say. Spend as much time with the kids as possible and like be there, right? Like if see them grow up and not just like kiss them goodnight in the end, right, of the day. But yeah, because what you just said before is we only have the now, right?
Yeah,
Like that's all we have, and we live in the past or in the future mostly, like most people do, right? So
true.
it's true, like when you have that kind of schedule in your head, okay, today is going to be like this and this and that, and everything changes, and then you have to catch yourself. Okay, shit, why am I pissed off now that I can go eat ice cream? Like, right?
Yeah,
Like it's so stupid. It's so stupid, right? But yeah, that's a good thing, because the more you think about this stuff, the quicker you can catch yourself, and
yeah,
then the better you can actually operate within that frame that you have,
true.
which is beautiful. And then it just gets like walking up the stage, like I thought, like 100 times a day, right? And then it's like brushing your teeth, and
Yeah.
you just get better at it. I mean, just 2 days ago, I dropped like a glass because I was carrying my son's shit, and I'm like, I shouted out, and I'm like, fuck, why are you reacting, about a fucking stupid glass?
Exactly.
Like it's so unimportant, right? And he sees you reacting in that way, and I catch myself like way faster now, and like eventually I'm not going to react that way anymore, right? Like it's because people ask, that like I have two friends, and their wife, they're pregnant, and they're like, how do you do this? And then like, how can I think about this already? I'm like, man, it's just learning by doing.
Yeah.
Like,
I
like
mean,
what?
nobody has a clue, right?
Like nobody has a fucking clue what they're doing, right? It's the same with building a business. Like, sure, you get
Yeah.
better, but like in the beginning, you have no fucking idea what the hell you're doing.
Well, it's true. I mean, what you just said about like dropping the glass, like just this morning, actually, right? Um, so telling out a like life story that most parents, I guess, can relate to, right? But so it's my job to get the kids to school in the morning, right? So we have an 8-year-old and a 5-year-old, and they go to school and kindergarten like right next to each other.
Yeah.
And so I actually go by bike in the morning and bring them to school, right? And my wife stays with the baby and gets some stuff done, ideally. And so usually in the mornings we don't fight, but it's a lot of pressure because the smaller one does not have to be in kindergarten at a certain time. The bigger one has to be there at 8 sharp or earlier, right? So the little one, obviously, he just relaxes, right? He takes his time. He's like chilled. And the big one is getting super nervous, right? Because we're like, school is your thing, right? We support you in everything, right? But it's your work. It's your fucking thing. You go not. It's your thing. And he fucking owns it, right? So he, like in his mind, he has to be there like at 8 sharp, and he owns it, which is great, but it unfortunately puts a bit of pressure on him in the morning. So usually I attend the small one. I pick him up, I brush his teeth, I like force feed him. I really like put on his shoes, get him out of the door. But this stresses me out. And sometimes I get, I don't know, I just get stressed, right? And I get too loud, I get too stressed, right? And so part of my manifestation yesterday, like my little exercise, was to let that go, right? So today in the morning, I did what I was able to do. And then at a point, I realized we're not going to make it in time. And instead of like shouting at him or doing what parents, myself included, sometimes do, I was just retreating. I was just telling them, see, I really need to go now, right? You need to go. I did everything I can. Tell me when you're ready. And I just left, right? I did leave our home. I just went to the bedroom, right, and took my phone and got some work done. And then, like after 5 minutes, my wife is coming, like, "Where's your dad? What's going on here?" Right? I'm like, I'm not screaming at them. I was just they'll tell me when they're ready. And so they did, and we came late, but it was actually good energy. And I was like, I really don't like coming late, and I'm sorry for my big one, but at least today I realized I have a choice. Like you have a choice in every single fucking moment, and usually you don't realize. So yeah, let's see
Always.
what happens tomorrow.
No, there's
Oh,
always a
tomorrow.
choice.
Tomorrow, yeah. There's no school tomorrow,
Monday.
is there? Okay, yeah.
Yeah, Monday.
Monday.
Yeah, there's always a choice, and that's exactly what you said. It's a good thing, once you get into that thought process, right, and you catch yourself earlier, then you have a choice. You can always
Yeah.
react differently, right?
Yeah.
And like in the end, why should we jeopardize the feelings of our children just because they're supposed to be on time? And it doesn't make any sense, right? Like it's just a thing, it's just like being there, right? Like they are gonna learn whatever they're supposed to learn in that hour, right? It's not gonna end the world,
Yeah.
right?
How old are your kids?
4 and a baby.
4 and a baby. Yeah.
Mm.
We thought a lot about homeschooling the kids or putting them into a different system because I guess like most entrepreneurs, we're not super happy with the system and what kids are taught in the system, right? And our kids go to school in Austria, and it's like a really great private school, but it's also a Catholic private school, and that comes with a lot of values that I'm
Sure. Not
not
signing.
too fond of, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And it still makes sense for us as an option, but I have my difficulties at times, right? And like, I guess it's just, I don't know, it's just the way it is that every kid is there at 8. I think it's a matter of respect to actually be on time and show up. That is true. But
Sure.
does a 6 or like an 8-year-old have to do that? I don't believe that's the case, right? Yeah. I don't know. I'm like in general, I think everybody should be a system critic, right, and reflect on what works in a system and what doesn't. And obviously, our school system is broken in so many ways. But quite frankly, I don't have a better system, right? So if you have one, let me know. I'm open.
Yeah, we can definitely talk about that. I mean, mine, I I gave him the option to go to kindergarten, and he tried twice, 2 different years, and the second time he went for a month, and then he stopped going. Right, so he's at home,
Yeah,
and I'm not strict with that because I know it was tough for me. Right,
yeah,
I was just not made for that. Like
yeah.
I would always look for the fastest solution. I would get in trouble for that. Like yeah, you like why are you working outside of the what was it rules? I don't know, right? Like you're supposed to do it this way. Like
Yeah.
yeah, no, but this is better. Got a bad grade, right? Like I
Story of
it
my
was it
life.
was an issue for me, and that's why I kind of respect his decision, and I know he doesn't feel well when he gets back and when he's in there, because like he doesn't want to walk in a like to go pee with 5 or 6 other kids or like
Mm.
play like in a circle all the time. He wants to be by himself, and like I think we should respect that. So I'm a big proponent of homeschooling and the other ways, right? That there are. Like I talked to a guy that is building like a system in the US where you can basically also as a parent, start your own school, right?
Yeah.
And I thought about it a lot if it were possible here, but I think we're gonna run into problems in Europe if we do that. But I still think there's ways, right? Maybe it's not the best to talk about this like this publicly, right? But we can have that conversation like elsewhere. But I think there's a way, and I don't think we should like force our kids into that kind of system if they really if you can see it's not the right thing for them. Like if they come back and like you see their soul is hurting, and they're not as
Mm.
happy anymore, and you can see it in their eyes. I think it doesn't have to be that way. I think there's
You're
a
right.
different option, because I think for me it broke a lot in me, right? Like these early years and like in German school, and later also went to private school because I probably wouldn't have finished public school in Germany. But yeah, it was not for me. And I'm not saying it's not for like there's kids that kind of thrive in that thing. Like I have friends that were great, but there's
Yeah.
others that's not made for them, and you cannot push everyone through the same low hole.
No,
It's
it's
just
true.
not like you kill their creativity.
That's a big part of it. I
right? Like you
agree.
kill their drive, you kill their thought process. Like these
You
kids,
know what?
they I
You know
have
what?
four
You know what?
nephews,
Really?
right?
Yeah. Go ahead.
I have four nephews, and they're all very different. And I saw it
Yeah.
with them, like over the years, right? The oldest is like 22, and the youngest is 12 now. So I saw it with them and how it changed them, right? And so I learned from that, and I'm not going to do the same mistake.
You're right. Um, it's very interesting because I think so. So again, my bigger one is 8 now, right? So we've had some years with kindergarten and school now already, and I guess I don't know. I guess I got used a little bit to the system, right? Which is what happens. But for many years, we struggled with it. And the one thing that really changed everything for us was when we realized that he has really good friends in kindergarten or school, then, right? And so he goes to school, yes, and it's definitely not perfect, but he has his circle of friends, right? So he develops his social skills, right? And
Sure.
he develops like relationships that are super, super critical for him. What I think is that most kids end up in kindergarten way too early, right? So ours started at 4, 5, right? I think that's early enough, right? Before that, I don't know. They're really just forced to be without their parents, specifically their mom, usually, right?
Yeah.
Which doesn't make a lot of sense to me. But then again, it also comes back to like how you could actually manage your life, right? I mean, nowadays, a lot of times both parents feel the necessity to work, right? And then how do you deal with that? So it's a lot about like reinventing the wheel over and over again and trying to see how it works for you and for your family, right? And we've gone through so many stages here, right? And it's still not perfect, right? So that's
Yeah,
just part
totally.
of it, I guess. But also, it's part of that growth process that you have as a person, right? A mentor of my wife. So my wife is with the United Nations, and she's gotten to know a couple of really great people in that space. And one of her mentors, a very very successful person, once told her when she said to him that, "Hey, I'm pregnant." He was like looking at her with big eyes, and he really loves her, right? And he said, "Good, it will make you an even better person."
Mm.
And I think this is the greatest gift that you receive when you have kids, right? And a lot of wonderful things about having kids, right? And I think people are right when they say it's the greatest thing in life. Um, but also they forget to mention that it is really your biggest chance of leveling up yourself and becoming a better version of yourself. Because if you don't, I mean, a lot of people probably don't, right? They just continue living their life and somehow try to juggle things and continue. Uh, but if you actually listen to your kids and listen to all the challenges that you will get yourself into when you have kids, it's really, really the most wonderful growth opportunity.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, because as you said, it is the opportunity to level up in a big way, right? But like, are you gonna take that challenge, right? Are you gonna go into that? Because it does mean that a lot of other stuff is gonna fall short for a while. That you're gonna fuck up
Yeah,
some stuff. You know, I gave up a lot of business and I gave up a lot of friendships,
sure,
and
sure.
which is totally fine, right? Like I decided back then, okay, now I'm gonna focus on my family and I'm gonna make that work. And I changed environment, I changed, location, and closed some old stuff, and it, had to pay a lot in a monetary way, but like it's so unimportant. So it's like all that stuff, like can be rebuilt, can, be
Exactly.
regained. Like it's really not that important. And yeah, because I mean, I also have, men that I know, and they have three children, but with three different wives, and
Yeah.
they're still living their life like, I used to when I was studying.
Yeah.
Right. So, and then they say, yeah, I'm a good father because I see them like, once a week, and then I take them out and like we hang out. And I'm like, yeah, but I don't really get into this conversation with these people because it's not my business. But it's yeah, you didn't take that challenge up, like for real, right? Like you just pushed it to the side and you're the same person as before. But then,
Exactly.
it's the only one that's suffering later on is the kid,
Yeah.
unfortunately, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, when you look at these statistics, like in the States, for example, right, like these fatherless homes, and It's like 70%
Crazy.
chance you end up in jail or some shit like that, right? Like it's
It's crazy. And like even over here, right? Like I see a lot of parents getting divorced when they're like friends of my 8-year old, right? Like
yeah.
parents getting divorced left and right. And I'm like, not judging, right? I mean, if a relationship doesn't work out, it doesn't work out, right? And who am I to have an opinion on that? But it's fucked. Honestly, it's really bad for the kids. And my parents got divorced when I was 12, right? So I've been through things on in this regard. And but then again, it was not the worst divorce you've ever seen. I'm sure there's a lot worse things, right? And I see them like in like with my kids' parents. But it's definitely bad for the kid. And I also think that for most parents, and I guess I can only speak for the men here, but I think for most men, it's I think they're failing in their relationship, right? And again, that can happen. I mean, you have to fail as an entrepreneur. You have to be used to failure. That's fine, right? But failing a relationship is usually a lot harder, right? And I think it's a pity that people seem to take less effort nowadays in making a relationship work.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's easy to meet someone new, right? Like you just open up the app and
Yeah.
you know, like you go for a drink and that's it. Yeah, but that's the thing, because I think the issue here is that people don't want to work on themselves, right? Until they get it, right? Like if you don't work on yourself, you will like be reintroduced the same partner over and over again with the same traits, right? And because it shows you what you have to work on in yourself, and that's the crucial part. I mean, with me, it was the same in my 20s. I always had these boss babes, that I thought I wanted, and it looked good to the outside, and it would just, like that bomb was ticking, and it would explode eventually, right? So yeah, it's you get those, and people then think, yeah, it's always the other person, right? Like, look at her, she did this, she did that. Yeah, but it's on you, man. Like you have to do the work, right? Otherwise you will meet the next one, she will be looking differently, but it will still be the same issue. So yeah, that's good stuff there. Maybe, let's get to something tactical, maybe a bit more business, yeah, topic wise. And so you work on that new project of yours, like it's about content, it's about branding, it's about personal brand, it's about understanding how to become a thought leader in a niche
Yeah.
and building a service around that. Yeah, give
Yeah.
me some thoughts about that.
Yeah, sure. So I've spent about 20 years now selling shit online. So I guess I've seen my share in how you can get products to people, right? How you make sure that people want your shit and actually open up the wallets and give you money for that. The thing is that first of all, it's working less and less. So for a good reason, like marketers have destroyed a lot, and for a good reason. People are more skeptical than ever about advertising messages, right? So we obviously live in a day and space where it is a requirement to be more authentic, whatever that means, right? And share more about who you actually are, especially if you want to attract younger audiences. So I've thought about this a lot, and like thought about what I actually want to do like in my 40s, right? What do I want to spend my time with? Do I just want to sell more shit, or do I actually want to do stuff that I believe really matters? Because I've spent most of my 20s actually working for impact and trying to create positive change, right? And then my 30s was mostly about selling shit online and making money. And I kind of wanted to find a balance between those two. And I have, at least for myself. And it is using my marketing skills to actually mm, leverage the voices in this world that I believe matter, right? So we're working exclusively with founders who build something that I believe the world should know about. And so we help those founders understand what message they actually want to share. So we help them find their voice, right? and then also find an audience for that voice. So we actually create social media content for them, mostly video content, which is something that a lot of people struggle with, right? And we have a full content engine behind that. So we basically get people, those founders in front of a camera, and then we take over, we curate that content, we edit that content, we publish that content, basically making sure to share more about that person with the world. And in return, obviously, these people build their tribe, right? Generate an audience. And yes, of course, also have the opportunity to market to that audience then. But the great thing about it is that it's not actually like marketing in the usual sense, but it's marketing in the sense that we spoke about at the very beginning of this conversation, which is really sharing authentically your voice and what you stand for and what you have to offer. And then you attract the right kind of people who actually want to have something from you, right? So this is the perfect way of selling stuff, because you're just being authentic and telling people what you have. And then the people who actually do want exactly that, they will be super happy to give you money because they're receiving something that they actually want, because they believe it will get them ahead in life, right? So just makes a lot of sense for me. It's so much better than those forced advertising campaigns that I have run for so many years, right? Instead, just being yourself, right? Getting the word out. And this way build a very successful business, but also impact the world in a positive way. So yeah, that's what
Nice.
we're building right now.
Yeah, so you being more authentic to yourself, and you helping other people be more authentic, which I think is crucial for us men, right? Like, I don't know if you know some people, you probably get into that age now where there's a lot of like midlife crises going on and stuff like that. And like, I had many more older friends, but like I still know them, and it's usually when they're not authentic, right? It's
Yeah,
usually when they work for someone else about a topic that they cannot, fully support, right? Like that's when I see this come up later on, right, in life, especially for us men. I don't know
it's
if
true.
you think so too.
I think so. I mean,
Yeah,
I know a lot of very rich men. Many of them are not happy.
yeah,
And it is because of what you just said. It's because they made their money with stuff that they're not proud of, with stuff that they don't actually want to tell their kids or their mommy about, right? With stuff that they believe is not having a positive impact in that world, or even if it does have a positive impact in the world, is it what they want to be known for? Is it what they want to spend their time and energy with? And a lot of rich people, they didn't make money the way that they should have made money, and they will be a lot happier with less money. Not saying that you're happier when you have less money. No, money is good. Make money, make lots of money, but make it the right way, please.
yeah, yeah. Totally agree. It's that problem, right? Like when you have the choice, because you do have it. Because oftentimes, especially when I talk to these kind of people, and they say, "Yeah, I had no choice. I had to do it this way. The competition was doing it this way. It was
Yeah.
the only way to survive." I'm like, no, no. You had the choice, right? That
Yeah,
there was a different
exactly.
way, and you chose to do it
Exactly.
that way because you didn't want to lose that client, or you didn't want to lose
Yeah.
that job or whatnot, right? Yeah, it's sad, in a way for them, because it will probably haunt them for a while, and it's difficult to get out of this, right? Because it gets your identity, and it becomes your identity, and then you think it's the only way for you to survive in this world, and yeah, interesting
I
stuff.
think the biggest secret to life is to understand that nobody fucking cares about you anyways.
Yeah,
Because you just mentioned that people think they cannot do something because it doesn't fit their identity. The thing is, nobody fucking cares about your identity, right? I mean,
exactly.
who do you think you are, motherfucker, right? Just
Yeah.
change, just do whatever matters, right? And maybe then for that, people will remember you, but most likely not. So, whatever, right?
Yeah, totally true. Yeah, it's true. Nobody cares. I worked on some epigenetics like 2 3 weeks ago, and my guide, and she asked me about like my great grandfather, and I asked around, like nobody could really tell me anything about him. What I mean? Like you shared the name and what he did, and
Yeah,
just like the basics, but like it's 3 generations down, and nobody knows
it's
what the
crazy.
fuck went on. It's like your own family, right? Like
Yeah,
nobody's gonna give a shit about you 3 4 generations down the line. It's just the way it is,
it's
and
a
we
fact.
think we're so important, right? Like it's it's really funny at times. Yeah.
No. So
Like,
here is a pseudo psychological take on things. I in My wife don't likes this, but she knows it's true.
mm,
The I strongly believe that everything you do as a human is egotistical and egocentrical. Is that a word? So basically, whatever you do in life, you only do it for yourself. Like if
mm,
you love someone, you love this person for yourself. And yes, that is true for your spouse and also for your kids. Whatever you do in your life, everything that you do, you only do for yourself. So if you don't want to be an asshole, right? Understand like what is actually important to you and what actually makes you happy. And most likely, what you will then do for yourself will actually be something that is good for the world because most people, I believe, are actually good human beings, right? And they want to do the right thing also for themselves. I don't think there's a lot of people who want to harm other people. I don't think a lot of people will get any true satisfaction from harming other people, right? So it is my strongest conviction that if people understood that everything they do, they should do for themselves and for themselves only, they would actually do a lot more good in the world. But
yeah.
yeah, not a lot of
No,
people
it's
like that idea. So
no. I
I'm
mean,
fine with that. I don't care.
no, in a sense, if you understand that, the person in front of you is you, that we are. That's if we can go there, we're all one in a sense, right? Then that's true again, right? Because what you do for your child, right? Like that child is you,
Yeah.
you know that's the selfish part in it. And so start with yourself, focus on yourself, get yourself in order first, and then you can show up better for everyone else around you, right? Like that's also what's attached to that. But like, just to basically close the loop to that topic beforehand, it is all
Sorry.
about. No, it's, I mean, that's a great segue, because it is very important. It's like, can you look yourself in the mirror,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
That's what it's all about. I had, like,
It's
we
true.
all, like, especially people that do something, like, in entrepreneurship or like business wise by themselves, right? Like, you will get into these situations where you can choose: are you going to match that cunt over there, right, that tries to fuck you over, or are you going to choose the other route and, like, breathe and, take the loss, right? Maybe you have to sue them, maybe not, right? Doesn't fucking matter. But are you going to become a cunt as well?
Yeah. You're right.
Right. And that's so that's a big one, because that's the
That's really
choice.
true. I mean,
Right, that's the choice.
honestly, I mean, you have two kids, right? I mean, one
Yeah,
of them is still very young, but like, I mean, my boys fight every single fucking
sure,
day, right? And
sure.
I don't know, they're just kids or young men or whatever it is, humans, I guess, and they fight all the time, and it's super interesting to see like the options again that you have, and you can fight with them and force your opinion on them because you're stronger and whatever, right? um, or you can try the peace way, right? And I actually got this hat here to remind myself because I'm obviously not at peace all the time. Who the fuck is, right? um,
Nobody
and
is.
and I'm trying that with my kids. Like, I'm putting on my cap and like, guys, I'm not participating in this war.
Yeah,
I was just sitting there and seeing what happens. And sometimes the war is over, sometimes not. And I have to look for a different solution. But anyways, but yeah, but trying to loop back to also like the more tactical stuff that you wanted to talk about. I think, or I hope I can also be kind of like a facilitator for people who are great, but who have not yet understood how great they are because they're wearing a mask, right? And they're doing stuff because they believe that this is how they're supposed to act. And I
mm,
believe that I can be a little bit of an enabling force to get them in front of camera and open up and show their true self, the true self.
mm,
And I know that it will work better for them on a tactical level. I know that people will connect better with them. And if that's their KPI, I know that they will sell a lot more shit by
mm,
being authentic and being themselves. And I'm a marketer. Like, all my fucking credentials come from selling shit and making money online. So this is also how I get people into that. And so I'll say, work with me. It will be uncomfortable, but you will make more fucking money. And I'm like, okay. And then it's like, okay, can you please drop the professional camera? Can you please like just dress like you usually dress? Can you just like talk the way you usually talk, right? But it's hard. It's hard. Like I have a guy on my team, and when he joined me, right, and we did some videos, like the first, and he's like a young kid, right, a young kid who spends all of his time on TikTok. I pay him to spend all his day on TikTok, which
Okay.
is a dream job in a way, I guess. I don't think he can do it for long, but for now, I hope it's a dream job. But anyway, so one of the first things that he told me was like, and that was rough for me because I was like, we did some content for myself, and I was like showing him the footage, and he looked at me and he was like, "Why are you acting so weird?" And I was like, What do you mean?" I was like, "Yeah, that's not how you usually talk. Like, why are you acting? You're a bad actor." I'm like, "Am I really?" And I was like completely fucked, and it really screwed my mind. And he was right. It's because if you want to get something super right, especially in front of camera, like you're trying to act, you're trying to be something else, you're trying to be a better version of yourself, but you're not, right? And of course, I still do that, right? Of course, I speak a little bit different now than I speak like to a friend or my wife, right? Of course, right? I still cannot completely get rid of it. I'm trying. Um, but I think for most people, it's a lot worse, right? I mean, you are like super authentic and chilled here, right? Most people are not, right? They're just trying to act. And if I, with my service, can help people to be more authentic, to be more real, and just share what they know, I hope I'm doing a service to the world. And I will definitely help these people be happier and financially more successful, which just feels very right to me and a lot better than just running the next marketing campaign, right? But sharing their voice, helping them to really understand what value they bring to the world. Yeah, and just letting the world know. And I mean, that's all you need for marketing, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's you basically helping them take off that mask, right, that they've
Yeah,
built
yeah,
over the years. Yeah, because it's probably like they think, it's like PR, it's like that magazine shoot,
yeah,
that came up when you sold that company, right? Like you have to, be portrayed in a certain way, and yeah, but it's different. Like yeah, I thought about that a lot because like, can you fake authenticity? And I don't think so,
Can
right?
you fake authenticity?
Yeah,
Can you fake authenticity?
because like,
I think I honestly think some people can, but fortunately, it's a very tiny minority.
yeah, you can fake it, but you cannot fake it like in the long run, and not
Yeah,
if you're
exactly.
doing lives and stuff like that.
Yeah,
Like if
yeah,
you sure you can curate the content in a certain way and always record it and then do it 20 times, right? But
yeah,
that's not going to work. Like if you really dive into the social game,
yeah. True.
I don't think so. I mean, it's a tough one. So
It's fun. It's funny. So I actually in like 20 minutes or so, I have a recording session with one of our clients, and she's a former Miss New York, right? So she's a very, very attractive woman. She's also extremely smart and a successful entrepreneur. Um, but we had a recording. It's not the first time that we have recording scheduled. Where and like so let me start that differently. So last week, Friday, we had exactly the same recording scheduled, right? And she was texting me like literally minutes before the recording. She was like, "Yeah, the light is not right," and I'm like, "In New York, I'm traveling, and I can't do that now." And
mm,
I'm like, "I understand. Like, I mean, beauty is part of you. It's part of your identity. I understand that. You are very good looking." But honestly, I think it's awesome if the light is not right. Just grab your phone, right? Fuck all the other shit. Just grab your phone and we'll do it. In the end, we didn't. We'll see what happens today. But I would have loved that. I understand it for her because she's coming from that background. It's too far of a stretch right now. But let's see. I think I'll get her to like just grabbing her phone and being herself. Um, it's interesting how hard that is for a lot of people. But I've been on the same journey. It's still hard for me. And like, but yeah,
but
looking
yeah,
how
there you
dark
go.
my professional camera here now is, I
Yeah.
should have just fucked that and used my phone.
Yeah,
Anyways,
but that's that mask, right? That's
it
that
is.
identity. Like I used to
Yeah,
go out with a model for a while, and like she was beautiful inside as well. But like it was very important, right? Like how does that picture of
yeah,
myself look to the world, right? And there's
yeah,
different levels to it, as like once they start using Botox and stuff, it's a different level, right? But like
Yeah.
if you've got that natural beauty, it's it can be handled in a different way. But like, yeah, that's that mask, right? Because they kind of hide behind it oftentimes, right? If they have an issue with it. But that's how we all have these masks, right? Like they do just look
Everybody.
differently. So technically you are getting into coaching and into, being a psychologist at the same time.
Yeah, I'm not sure I want to wear that mask, or that hat, but yeah, no,
Yeah.
I guess the way that it is better pitched is we run a content engine
Okay,
to
okay.
make you visible on social media. The rest is kind of like
Yeah.
a hidden agenda I have.
Okay, okay. Yeah, so maybe you have like a chief heart officer, that's gonna handle that stuff.
True.
Maybe,
Maybe.
right? Could be interesting. Okay, so thought leaders, basically, it's not about the size of the account, it's about who follows you, right? And
A
how
lot,
deep.
yes.
Yeah.
I mean, so let's talk briefly about the biggest misconceptions when it comes to social media nowadays. So there is obviously different reasons why you want to be on social media, and there's a lot of people who just want to share and like show their friends what they do. Let's put that aside. Let's talk about people who do have a vested interest in being more visible online, because in the end they have something to sell, right? Be it themselves, being a product, being a service, something like that. And a lot of people who invest a lot of time into social media obviously are those who want to sell something in the end, right? There's two kinds of ways to make money through social media, like that people look into usually. One is to be paid by the platform, right? So a lot of content creators, they try to come up with viral content, and the more views they get, the more money they can make through the platform, right? So TikTok, YouTube, whatever pays them. The thing is that, first of all, these platforms pay very, very little, right? So in essence, you would have to generate millions and millions of views every single month to be able to support the family and pay your bills with that. It's possible. It's very hard, right? Most people are not Mr. Beast. 99 point something percent of creators struggle financially,
Yeah.
right? So it's not a really good business model. The other way, of course, is to use social media to promote an actual business that you have, right? And if you have an actual business that sells a service or a product that has value for people, the only thing that you need to do is get visibility with the right kind of people, with your ICP, with the people who, in essence, should be interested to purchasing your product or service. So what does that mean? It means that as a founder of a company or somebody who has a service that he wants to know other people, he wants other people to know about, you don't need a big following, right? I know very, very successful people who sell mostly through social media, and I talk about organic social media, not even ads, right? But only have a couple thousand followers. Like if you look at my Instagram account, I will finally get to it and grow it a bit, but I have like 2,000 or something followers on Instagram. It's ridiculous. It's nothing, right? But I know the people that follow me, and most of them are very successful entrepreneurs and people who, if I just reach out to them, would in general be interested in purchasing from me, right? And that is what matters, right? So, would it be great to have 2,000 of these? Would it be great to have 20,000 of these people instead of 2,000? Yes, of course. But would I benefit from having 2 million followers? Probably not, because there are not that many people in my target audience who, yeah, not enough people to follow me who actually meet those criteria. So long story short, yes, it's great to have more followers. Yes, it's even better if those people are engaged, right, with your content, and you have an actual communication with those people on whatever platform that you choose. But most importantly, you have to have the right kind of followers. So it's very important that when you create content, you're not posting like funny cat videos or memes or whatever nonsense, but you actually post about that stuff that you work on day in and out. And people who are interested in that could potentially then also be your customers or clients one day. And even if they're not, it's great conversations that you can have with people interested in your stuff, and you will get better in what you do. So that's what it's all about.
Yeah. So personal brand is absolutely crucial. Doesn't matter, what niche it is. You would always advise, to that.
honestly, everybody needs a personal brand. Everybody needs to let the world know what they're doing. And social media is just the best way of doing that.
For
Very
sure.
easy. And it doesn't require a service like ours. If you're just fine with filming yourself or what you do and cutting it up and putting it on social, that's awesome, right? If you want to have a maybe better strategy and some help doing that, there's people who can help you. But either way, get
Yeah.
yourself out there and let the world
Yeah.
know what you're all about.
Yeah. Totally. So, what about talking about politics? Is that still a no?
Um, well, ask.
Yeah, because I'm good at pattern recognition and like connecting dots and stuff, and I know about like geopolitics, and it's stuff that interests me. I thought about that a lot because like especially with the podcast, I have the possibility to talk about this, and get the people there like in front of me that know more than I do, and I'm thinking about it. It's just I don't want to run into these walls like right away. So don't know.
We can speak about politics, but honestly, um, okay, I give you my so I'm Austrian, right? The thing is that whatever politics we do here in Austria, nobody cares, right? So it's easier to have an opinion or not in a small country that nobody really gives a shit
Yeah,
about.
sure. Not just meant in general, as a personal brand, right? Like if it's one of those, couple topics that you talk about, right? Like if that's stuff that you actually think about on a daily basis, right? Like
Oh, you
can it
mean
be
if you? Oh, okay.
yeah. Yeah, yeah. Can
Sorry.
it be part of your personal brand?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, if that's something that you want to position yourself with, yes, 100%. I mean, I know very very successful online channels, right? Like Instagram, TikTok profiles of people who are very clear about the political position, right? And they're very successful with that. I wouldn't necessarily recommend that, but yeah, like I forgot the guy's name, but it's a guy who basically just has a cup of coffee in a restaurant, right? He literally just takes his phone, right, on like a selfie stick or whatever it is, a tripod, and he just has a coffee. And then he says like one controversial political statement, right? And he's like American, right? So it's always about like Democrats versus Republicans, right? And I think he's Republican. He says something that's kind of offensive to the Democrats, right? And he goes viral in like almost every fucking video because it's just polarizing and controversial, right? And I don't know what he does with that following, but that's his thing and it works for him. I think most entrepreneurs are not that political. Maybe in the US, not over here. I mean, we're more interested in like making our stuff work. And sometimes politics can be an enabler, and sometimes it's very restricting. But in general, you just do your thing. That's how I look
Sure.
at politics. And so, as an entrepreneur, yeah, it's funny. Not a lot of our clients have asked about like getting into politics, but you can see through it when you look at their statements. Usually,
Yeah, definitely. So when you kind of start working with someone, do you say, okay, like what's your ikigai? Like what are the couple niches that you want to talk about on a regular basis? Would you say, okay, let's choose 3 or 4 niches and 3 or 4 topics that you kind of rotate through? Or how would you frame that?
yeah. So when we start working with a client, we usually first try to understand why they do things. So yes, ikigai is one of the concepts that we can use, right? After we clarified why they actually want to be more visible and what drives them, what their values are, then we really look at the who, right? So what's the target audience and who should the content resonate with? And then we'll look into where we want to be present, right? Typically, it's best, as usual in life, if you have focus and start with one platform. Usually that's Instagram because it's still probably the best channel for most entrepreneurs to be visible. And then we expand to TikTok, LinkedIn, YouTube, and then of course it's all about finding a concept that actually works for them. So the thing is that most entrepreneurs are super busy, right? They're not your content creator who has time and interest in like dancing in front of camera or like unpacking the 20th thing that they've received for free from TikTok shop or whatever. But they're actually busy. They're actually working. They're actually doing something, right? So we find a format that works for them. Usually that involves includes some kind of interview format, right? And we test through a couple of things to find that one repeatable format that works for them and resonates with the audience. And once we've found that, we obviously double down on that. And so the goal is to have at least one video a day published. So on Instagram, that will be real, right? And if you nail the concept and you nail the tone of voice, that can drive exceptional results. Like we've started with a new client like 3 weeks ago, right? It took about 2 weeks of ramp up, and now we see like the last 2 days, like yesterday and today actually, and it's not very late today. She got over 700 additional followers. It's a small account, right? So like percentage wise, that's completely nuts. And that is only because she found her voice, right? And we just continue to pushing great valuable content to the same audience. It's not that hard actually. It's just about getting a couple things right and then being consistent with it.
Sure. So you do just a reel, or you also do posts? Like you post
We
twice?
focus on reels, we focus on video because that's what's hard for most people. But yeah, we do posts, we do carousels. But nowadays, like video is still where the platforms also give you the best growth opportunities. And that is actually true for all networks. Like with LinkedIn and Twitter, obviously like X, you can still get around with text only. But in general, video is appreciated by each and every platform.
Beautiful. Okay, Philipp, thanks a lot for your time, man. I know you
My
gotta
pleasure.
go soon.
All right.
Where can people find you if they want to follow you?
Yeah, we're building a website. It's still in its initial phase, but yeah, LinkedIn or Instagram is a great place.
Yeah, we'll link
right?
it.
Just type my name.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Perfect. I appreciate you. Thank you very much for the conversation. I really enjoyed it. Thank you, Max.
Likewise. Thanks, man.